What's going on, everybody? I am Perry White. I'm the host of the Jaguar Journal. I want to make sure that you guys tune in live each and every Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 107.3 FM. We also have our affiliates in Alexandria, Louisiana, as well as down in New Orleans. And if you're not able to catch us on radio live, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as follow us on Facebook. It's the Jaguar Journal.
Opinionated, outspoken, informative. The Jaguar Journal. Your source for the latest information on Southern University sports and SWAC athletics. A Baton Rouge sports talk tradition.
All right, bright and early on a Saturday morning, it is the Jaguar Journal. Good morning to everybody. I am Perry White, 7:04 in the a.m. Central Standard Time, and wherever else you listen to us in the world, we appreciate you, whatever time it may be. If it's the West Coast, it's still early. If it's the East Coast, you're a little late getting up this morning. It's already 8 o'clock and rocking and rolling. And for everybody right here, appreciate you. Everybody listening on 107.3 FM here in the Baton Rouge capital city area, all of our fans and supporters that watch us on our YouTube channel and Facebook Live. Good to have you guys with us. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on there on our YouTube channel. Hit that follow and like button on our Facebook as we continue to grow with us. How can we grow without you guys, right? We bring out all this news and information, and we continue to push it out there for you guys to keep up with everything that's going on. And you know, when we get to this time of the year, we almost in May. Things start to slow down. Football is kind of on the back burner of things right now. You kind of got to let it resonate. The best thing we'll probably start getting in football now is transfer portal. Who's coming, who's going, and those types of things. Everything else, you got baseball and softball on the back end. You have track and field. You know, those are the things we're going to kind of slowly but surely close out the semester, getting into May. Then we start talking about other stuff. Normally around that time of the year, I bring back legends. I talk to Southern athletes that have made an impact on whatever prospective game that they were a part of and try to tell that story. That's one thing I'm big about, telling a story of what it was like to have that superstar status. Because as we know, there were a lot of student athletes who came to Southern, and because of how good they were, had a superstar status. But for a lot of us, we've never had an opportunity to sit down and talk to them. We've seen them from afar. You read about them in the paper. You saw them on the news, but you never truly got to hear the story about that person and hear their voice and get an understanding aside from what they say the politically correct answers. But when you get to a reporter and, hey, how was the game? You know, what'd you do this week? You know, once they sum that up in about 30 to 45 seconds for a newsreel, you don't truly get to know those athletes. So and just people in general, not even necessarily the athletes, because as much as this show is the Jaguar Journal, what I'm trying to really do too, I cover a lot of sports here. I really do. And that is the main thing that I circle for the highlight of making sure that we take care of what brings people to the university aside from academics. It is athletics, and athletics has a story to tell on so many different ends, from the coaches to the players to the athletic director. But the university itself has a lot of stories also. So I've been reaching out to some people, trying to set some things up to get them here on the Jaguar Journal so we can get a little bit better information of what's happening on the academia side of the university. What are things in the future coming about in terms of new projects, buildings, funding, what funding has been cut, as we know, across higher education across the country right now. Slashes have been cut in terms of grants and everything else that have been, traditionally given out to certain schools, particularly like Southern. So that's the other part of it. Just trying to, one thing I noticed about Southern, and y'all know this, and I keep it real, I can get people to talk sports, but it get tough sometimes. I have to pull a tooth and everything else to try to get people to come on here and talk about, the other stuff. I can look, what I said, pull a tooth. I can pull all the teeth out. It's tough sometimes. I can get coaches, all right? The coaches and the relationships that I've built with them it's been great. I think I've gotten to that point of trust with the coaches at the university where at one time it used to be tough to get coaches here on the Jaguar Journal. They didn't know where it was going to go, what it was going to be like. Now I can make a call or send a text, and if they're not able to come on at that particular weekend, they'll hit me back and say, hey, man, get me in the future. No doubt about it, I'm going to get you, because I always want the people to hear from the person who's running the ship. It's only so much you can hear about me, Perry, talk about it, but I'm not there every day. I'm not with the student athletes. I'm not a part of the recruiting process. I'm not part of the everyday inner works of these programs. So it's good to hear from the people who are there every single day, making sure that these programs are being successful on and off the field, the court, and whatever else it may be. But the tough part is moving forward, I'm going to try to get, and you notice I said try, I'm going to work hard to get more from the academia side. Let's talk about some of these programs, mass comm, political science, computer science, the nursing program, which is one of the top in the nation. I'm going to start reaching out and start getting those people, because as much as we talk about the recruit the student athlete, it's the student side first. But we talked about this last week. I don't really know what to call them no more, saying student athlete, paid workers. But there are students. The campus is made up of students. And so as we continue to tell the story of Southern University and we branch away from sports for the summer, we start to tell those stories of the institution, in which as a whole is what we love. It's not just the sports side of it. It's the institution. It's campus life. It's dining. It's staying in the back. You go to Southern, you know what the back is. You've been in the back. You know what it is. It's your professors. It's your deans. It's the chancellor. Vice chancellor. So many components, because I know for myself personally, there were a lot of influential people in my department. I was in the Nelson Mandela School of Public Policy and Urban Affairs. So I had a lot of influential people who presented challenges to me and wanted to see would I accept those challenges to push me to be better. And I accepted them. I learned what it was like to be constructively criticized, and just don't take it as somebody saying something down to you, but to take it as somebody sees something in me. They're trying to show me my potential, because a lot of us, when you young, you don't see that potential everybody telling you, because you see it your way. You don't see it no other way. It takes life lessons and experiences to open your eyes. Once you finally realize, then you say, you know what they say makes sense. It happens as a child when it comes to parents. It happens to anybody when you at a younger age and somebody challenges you to be better, but you already think you great. You already feel like you there. And in reality, you're nowhere near there. So much more work to put in. And the same way it works with athletes, the same way it works with everyday people. Always leave room to be better and to take on constructive criticism. And don't take it as somebody trying to play you. Because this day and age, man, you can't say nothing to nobody. Everybody feel played about something. So, the word sensitive? My man. You can't say anything to nobody. Everybody feels some type of way. And we've gotten like that as a society where people feel that way. Nobody wants you to say nothing to them no more. Everybody feel like they got all the answers. I would like to blame it on the cellular phone, but maybe not. Maybe it's how people being raised these days in the household, when it came to morals and values and the old school, it took a community to raise a child. I mean, in a community, everybody had a say so when it came to your behavior, when it came to you. It just wasn't singular to one person. It took everybody to come together to be able to make sure the kids in the community were worth something. And we wasn't scared of you. We were proud of you. But these kids today, listen, parents today, people today, it's just different. It's different. So that's why I like to tell the stories of what happens at the university, because there are a lot of people like myself who came into the university, had a lot of potential, couldn't see it, blinded. And of course, you get blinded at the age, you smoke, you drink, you party. These the reality of the world. You're kicking it. It's college. The hell you think I went to college for? It wasn't just for the books. But that's the reality. I'm not going to sit here and act like I was just, I'm going to college. I'm going to class every day and I'm going to ignore all the distractions. No, I was in front of the union on Wednesdays trying to decide, am I going to class and not go to class? And it was days I said, to hell with class. And I sat out there and I kicked it. But see, the potential in me is when the professor said, you know what, you better than that. You missed my class. Why'd you miss my class? And you keep missing my class, you're going to flunk my class. That's when that reality settled in, like, hey, I can't flunk your class, Mr. or Miss Dr. So-and-so. I'm over here on Pell Grant. I'm trying to keep my grant. So that's the reality. That's the truth. That's how it really works out here. Anybody tell you anything different, they lying. There's some scholars, they ain't lying. There's some people who literally go to school and they don't do the college life side. They don't do all the extra stuff. The dorm room hopping. Yeah. I ain't going to tell it on myself this morning. I just went down memory lane in my head. I got some stories for y'all if y'all ever want to hear them. Just make sure the kids ain't listening this morning, but it's too early. Put them to work anyway. I'm talking about raising them. They need to be outside cutting the yard this morning. That's it. It's cool. It ain't hot. They need to be out there cutting the yard this morning, trimming them bushes, cutting down them trees. Put the kids to work again instead of sitting in front of the game all day on the internet, on the phone, not being social, not knowing how to do stuff in life. Put them to work. Get them out there. Get them active. Get them off them dang on electronics. All right, let's take a break. I ain't going to keep doing this. I'll come back on this side. I may keep up. Y'all stay tuned more to Jaguar Journal.
Quincy Richard is the quarterback. And Don, this is a man who's really changed his game from last season, and he's a graduate student as well.
Yes, he has, Bob. Quincy Richard has matured into the unquestioned leader of this Southern University offensive attack. 10 wins this season, and he set school marks for passing yards and touchdown passes. And Bobby's had a lot of help. Only 5 sacks on the season.
He earned his undergraduate degree back in August. He's taking some master's classes, and he wants to be a lawyer.
Here's Richard looking in the end zone. Has a man there. Touchdown, Southern University.
Play clock down to 3. Richard gets it off over the middle. Touchdown!
Holmes goes in motion and comes set on a 1st and 10. Richard completes it. That's Ard. Ard down the sideline. He could go. And finally pushed out of bounds. Richard's run for 10 touchdowns this season. He's going to keep it. Richard goes in. Make it 11 for Quincy Richard. Richard wide open. Touchdown, Chris Davis. Oh, does he love playing football even more now?
That in the flag against Grambling, holding on the kickoff.
Richard looking deep, and it's a touchdown.
But only 3 times did he go down. Twice he ran out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. It goes down as a sack.
2nd and 8, the deep ball, and that's our man, Chris Davis, for the touchdown. Time for today's State Farm Players of the Game. And from Southern University, the quarterback, number 15, Quincy Richard, 34 of 42, 552 yards, 5 touchdown passes.
Quincy, on behalf of State Farm Insurance Companies, I want to present you with a trophy for the most outstanding player today. Congratulations.
All right, we're back. It's the Jaguar Journal. Good morning, everybody. I'm Perry White. Glad to have you guys with us. Everybody out there listening on 107.3 FM across the Baton Rouge capital city area, and everybody out there listening on YouTube, Facebook, whatever the case may be. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on X. We are on Instagram. We're on all of those things, man. Good to have you guys. And you can turn it down a little bit. Yeah. No guest on right now, so I ain't really got to hear myself too much. But have you guys tuning in, and be sure to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, as well as hit that like and follow button on our Facebook Live. And everybody that's watching, every morning on Saturdays as we do the show, I share this in different groups because there are a ton of groups, Southern groups, SWAC groups, and all those other things on social media in terms of Facebook that gives us an opportunity to reach out to an audience out there who may not necessarily keep up with the Jaguar Journal consistently like many of you guys do. And for you all out there that do, I appreciate it. I see the names and I look at the comment sections after the fact, and I see those continuous names and I see people checking in. And the beautiful thing about it is we get people, and I say this all the time, check in from all over the country. Virginia, Florida. I saw Harlem, New York one time, and then somebody was checking in. California, the Midwest, of course, across the state of Louisiana, Texas, so many other places. So I appreciate you guys for all that you do, because aside from most other entities that cover this stuff, they're internet and YouTube based. That is their hub. We are a radio show first and everything else second. So that's what makes this a little bit different from everybody else. I know people like to base a lot of things off the views, but we base off our listenership, because that is our primary position as a radio show, not a YouTube or Facebook show. We just so happen to use those entities to bring it all together for you guys who may not be, as I always say, in the Baton Rouge capital city area, to be able to tune in. And that was the beauty of using digital media in this new era of the internet to be able to push it. 20 years ago, we would have needed a satellite truck out there running wires in here with about 20 people running different spots just to make sure we push this out there. Now we got Mike. Mike, sit back, hit a couple buttons, drag this to there, type this in, and boom, it's right there to your phone, your TV, your iPad. And when I have the mic, and we make sure we bring it together, it's a two-man crew, and we bring it straight to you each and every Saturday. So, appreciate you guys for always supporting. I want to talk some softball right now, including Southern University softball. Southern softball team right now, and I didn't get a chance to reach out to Coach Williams She's always a treat to have on here. Just a wonderful personality. And you can see where she's going in the direction of Southern softball when it comes to coaching, because if you look in the past compared to where they are now, this program currently on the season is 20-19 overall. They're 11-8 in conference play, and they're riding a 3-game winning streak right now. She has the program headed in the right direction, especially now that we're getting on the back end of the season. And when I say the back end of the season, we're almost done. 2 more series in conference play, and we're going to wrap things up. Let's go back and look at Southern softball a little bit, right? April 6th, and we'll go through April. They go on the road and take on Prairie View and beat Prairie View in a series, which Prairie View, from what I'm told on the softball side, they don't lose series when it comes to softball. And this team went over there at Prairie View and won 8-4 in game 1. They lost game 2, 3-4, and picked it up and squeaked it out in game 3, 2-1. Then how about coming back to home, Lady Jaguar Field, to take on Texas Southern, who I know in softball has traditionally been tough for Southern. That Texas Southern back and forward is pretty tough. Southern gets 6-5 game 1 against Texas Southern. They win game 2, 5-4. They fall short in game 3, 1-8. Nonetheless, they win the series over Prairie View and Texas Southern. Then we look at Alcorn. They sweep Alcorn 3-1 game 2, 7-6 game, 3-1 game, 3-1 in game 1, 7-6 in game 2, 7-1 in game 3. That's 3 straight series that they reeled off. So looking at this team, man, and they got a game today. They're up in Pine Bluff. They're taking on the Golden Lions. First pitch at 1 o'clock. Hopefully they do a lot better than what baseball did in Pine Bluff last week. Doubleheader today, 1 at 1 and game 2 at 3 o'clock. They'll close things out tomorrow on Sunday, 12 noon. Come back home, they take on Xavier. Doubleheader on Monday. And then we close this thing out next week. We already headed into May, people. Taking on Grambling. This was a makeup game, a makeup series that was postponed a few weeks ago due to inclement weather. So you'll have Grambling coming into town. Grambling and Southern will play, but it's going to be not a weekend game. It's going to be a weekday game. You're going to have a doubleheader on Wednesday, April 30th. The first game is going to be at 12. The second game is going to be at 2:30 on April 30th on Wednesday, and game 3 is going to be on May 1st, Thursday at 12. So I just want to make sure I put that out there before you think it's a weekend series. Once again, this is a makeup series that was postponed from earlier in the season due to inclement weather. And that Grambling series is going to start April the 30th with a doubleheader on Wednesday, 12 o'clock and 2:30 p.m., along with game 3 on May 1st at one Thursday at 12 o'clock before we get ready for the SWAC softball tournament, May 6th through May 9th in Gulfport, Mississippi at the Gulfport Sportsplex. That's where the SWAC softball tournament will be held. So for those of you that's in the region, in the area, and the way it's looking, the Jaguars, Southern women's team is going to find themselves in that tournament. Gulfport, Mississippi. Get a chance to go out there. And then not only that, check out Southern's softball team. Support them. And let's look at the SWAC standings right now, right? Because I want you to understand where we stand. Let's start in the SWAC East. Let's go there. At the bottom of the SWAC East, of course, you got Mississippi Valley State, who is 0-21 in softball right now in conference play. They have not won a conference game right. I don't know if they're riding this or they just don't want to be on it, but it's a 16-game losing streak. They're 2-33 overall on the season. Alabama A&M softball 7-14 in conference play. They're 16-25. Alabama State, along with Bethune-Cookman, are both tied on the softball side, along with Jackson State. 3 teams on the east side, all 13-8. Alabama State, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State. Alabama State 15-32 overall on the season. Bethune-Cookman 20-27 overall on the season. Jackson State 23-21. At the top of the SWAC East is going to be Florida A&M, who's 17-4 overall, and they're 21-17 on the season. 17-4 in conference play, 21-17 overall. They're riding a 6-game win streak. Now we jump over to the SWAC West. Alcorn State at the bottom of the softball standings of the West. They're 5-16, 10-24, 10-27 overall. They're on a 5-game losing streak. UAPB, today's opponent for Southern University softball, 7-14 in SWAC play. They're 12-27 overall on the season. Grambling State 8-9 in conference play, 15-23 overall. Texas Southern 11-10 overall. They're 11-22 on the season. Southern is right there in second place. I just gave you Southern's record. How about Southern making it to second place on the softball standard? And then with Prairie View, and Prairie View's only series loss of the season in conference play was guess to who? Southern. Prairie View is 17-3 overall in conference play. They're 23-19 on the season. Only 2 teams above 500 with overall records in the SWAC West. That's Prairie View and Southern. Only 4 teams in the conference altogether with teams above 500 with overall records. That's Prairie View, Southern, Florida A&M, and Jackson State. So Southern has worked its way up from the bottom. They won series against Pine Bluff, Alcorn, Texas Southern, and Prairie View. Pretty impressive work, might I add. All right, I'm ready to take a break. I'm trying to still wake up. I'm stumbling and fumbling a little bit, but, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I was up late, went to a baseball game across town. It was a lot going on, so let me try to regain my composure and get this thing steady rocking and rolling. So you guys stay tuned. We'll be back more to Jaguar Journal. It's On the Yard Sports, and I'm Perry White, and what I need for you to do is go follow and subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter right now.
T.R. Ricks is a fifth-year senior who's getting his first chance to drive the train that Bob talked about. And right now, he's driving it quite well because the Southern Jaguars are kicking butt in the SWAC conference. As Bob mentioned, 6-0 overall in the SWAC, and T.R. Ricks has played so well, over 2,000 yards passing. In the last 3 games running the football, he's been over 100 yards on the ground. The respect factor that he gets from his teammates is incredible. As a fifth-year senior who's never started, they elected him captain. And the numbers he has put up are represented on your screen. 27 total touchdowns on the offense, a pass percentage of nearly 60%. He could be the SWAC Player of the Year on the offensive side.
And they're going to get a huge dose of the best offensive player in the SWAC, and that being Thomas Ricks.
Yeah, what Thomas Ricks has found a way to do is just beat defenses either with his arm, with his feet, or with his leadership capabilities, finding a way to win the games late with fourth-quarter comebacks. He showed versatility and athleticism. He's a tremendous athlete that knows how to win, most importantly.
He really is a leader both on and off the field.
I just think it has come to a maturity level. I have a 4-year-old son, and, when he was born, I had to grow up fast and, just staying in school and practicing every day, trying to get better every day, just so he can have a better future. It's just been my inspiration. So, I just think that's my motor that drives me and, keeps me in the game.
His 4-year-old son, Collier, has not missed a game this season. They throw the football around in Rick's dorm room at Southern, and he says it's great playing football with Collier. 1st and 10. Ricks. He's got Vernon. Vernon makes the catch at the 45.
They can run the entire offense with all those guys in the game.
Ricks to Vernon. 1st down. Holmes in the backfield. Ricks. 1st down. Gage on the tackle, but not until Ricks picks up the 1st down. 2nd and 7. Ricks. Overstreet's got it. Across midfield. Ricks has a receiver downfield. It's caught for touchdown! Territory. Ricks fakes the pitch. Gets inside the 15.
He's in the type of young men that represent his philosophy in life and in football.
Ricks in a shotgun. He's going to run it out to the 10. And 2nd and 11 after the holding penalty. Sidearm toss.
All right, we're back. It's the Jaguar Journal. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you guys with us as we're rocking and rolling this morning. Talked a little SWAC softball, give you a little update there. Now, I want to go talk about this NFL draft, about what players out there available and whatever else may be the case when it comes to what's happening in the sports world right now. You know, nobody better than to talk about it than my man Zach McKennell, a.k.a. Blue from FCS Football Central. Blue, what's up?
What's up, man? Appreciate you having me on the show again, man.
Man, appreciate you for coming on. And, of course, you guys, Zach and I, we do our show on Monday mornings. We do SEC baseball recap. So we talk SEC baseball. I know for a lot of y'all out there, y'all listen, we want to hear about Southern and the HBC. We get it. But some of y'all, if you're baseball fans out there, you can keep up with Blue and I on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. We talk SEC baseball as we recap the weekend, look at the midweek games. We do it every Monday on the On the Yard Network at 10 a.m. So if you want to catch us on Monday, you can go over there and check us out. But everything else, Zach, how's your week been, man?
Man, busy. You know how it is during draft time, man. It's going to be a big day today. Should have a lot of FCS guys come off the board today, some HBCU guys. So it's going to be a busy day today.
Let's talk about that because, you know, we see the big schools. But for you, you were at the Legacy Bowl. You had an opportunity to see a lot of these guys work out for scouts and get evaluated. When you look at your board right now, because nobody's from the HBCU space except, you know, if we want to add in Travis Hunter, who came from Jackson State to Colorado. But aside from him, when you look at the board right now, the HBCU guys who are lined up, who do you have lined up from top to bottom? Let's just go for 5 to 10 names that work best for you right now. Who's best available right now on the board?
I mean, I think it's got to start with Carson Vincent, right? I mean, anytime you got a guy who was invited to the Senior Bowl, invited to the NFL Combine, and also, too, you know this, it's very rare for an HBCU player to check all the boxes as a full-time tackle. Came in at 6'7", 314, had an amazing Senior Bowl run, you know, beat a guy who was a first-round pick in a huge one-on-one rep at the end of practice, had a solid combine performance. I think Carson Vincent should be the first HBCU name that comes off the board. I personally didn't have him ranked as my number one prospect, but when you factor in just projecting who's going to get drafted, it's always, Perry, you know this, who has the highest ceiling, who has the intangibles, who has the measurables, and to me, that's Carson Vincent. And then I think one of the other guys, Robert McDaniel from Jackson State at safety, another guy who has the measurables, who is probably arguably even outside the HBCU prospects, man, just in terms of one of the most versatile defensive players in this draft, where he's played nickel, he's played both safety spots, he's played slot corner, he's played boundary corner, he's played in the box linebacker role, kind of like you see Marquise Bell play for the Dallas Cowboys. So I think McDaniel's going to be a guy that you see possibly come off the board later today. Another guy, Elijah Williams, I think he's probably more of a UDFA guy, which is a disgrace, man, because, I mean, when you look at the production, the dominance, the performance at the HBCU Combine, Elijah Williams should hear his name called, but for some reason he hasn't been getting the buzz that the top two guys have. And then outside of that, man, Aaron Smith, South Carolina State at linebacker. You know, I think what really hurt him, though, Perry, is just an injury throughout this pre-draft process. He had to miss the Shrine Bowl. He didn't have a chance to go perform at the Combine, HBCU or NFL Draft Combine. But when you look at the production that he had at linebacker, it jumps out, right? And then I think his pro day was pretty good. Had a 4.6 40, 35-inch vertical jump, a 10.3 on the broad, a 25 reps on the bench, man. It was really impressive. And then the last one, Irv Mulligan. I mean, Perry, me and you talked a lot of SWAC football. There should be no surprise here. Mulligan has been just arguably one of the best running backs at the FCS level and really capped it off with a dominant year this year and should be one of the top prospects, maybe even a late day 3 selection, but if not, one of the top UDFAs that we see come out of the FCS.
Let me ask you this, because I'm a big fan of Irv Mulligan, even, that season where he got hurt, and you saw where he was headed after they had played South Carolina State in that Meac SWAC challenge. He had looked like he was going to be that dude, and then he came back last year out of his injury and pretty much stood the test of time, and he was that dude. But does it look like this year anybody's going to get their name called on draft, just being drafted in any of the rounds?
Okay, so I would say Carson has a chance today. I think he's probably the best lot out of the HBCU prospects. I would say somewhere between the 5th to 7th round, Perry.
Mm-hmm.
So mid, sometime, around lunchtime, maybe toward the end of the draft. And then I think the only other guy that realistically has a chance to hear their name called is Rob McDaniel.
Yeah.
I think probably 6th, 7th round, in my opinion. I had him projected, I think, if we were talking mock drafts, I think I had him projected with the last pick for the Commanders in the 7th round. The Commanders have been the team that seems to have shown the most interest in him as a prospect. But outside of those two, Perry, I find it kind of hard-pressed to see any other HBCU prospects being drafted unless it's just a massive, unexpected pick out of nowhere somewhere in that 7th round.
For my Southern fans out there, anybody from Southern on your board?
No.
I had that.
Also, too, you also got to think Southern didn't lose a whole lot this year.
Yeah.
And you also got to think, too, they only had one player at the HBCU Legacy Bowl this year, and it was a long snapper.
And what does it look like? Does it look like he's headed anywhere?
I mean, maybe a UDFA, but I don't ever remember a long snapper really being drafted.
Yeah.
So he's probably a UDFA, not even a UDFA, probably a mini camp invite at that. But outside of that, I don't think Southern had any top prospects come out this year.
And I just wanted to ask that because I know the fans out there, my Southern people, are going to say, but you didn't ask about Southern. This is just the check the box, Blue. I already know that we just had to check the box for those that's out there. Looking overall, and let's have this conversation, right? Is the obvious. Everybody's talking about it. Shedeur Sanders, who, of course, played at Jackson State and then went over to Colorado. What do you think is happening with him right now not being called after 3 rounds?
I mean, okay, so everyone knows how I felt about it. So he was my QB2, and I've kind of spoken about how I thought there was a bigger gap than a lot of people did between him and Cam Ward. So I still expected him to go first round just because of positional need. But at the same time, like, the first round wasn't just like shocking to me, but I thought it was a lock that he was going to go in like the first 5 picks of the 2nd round. Period. I mean, I would have lost every cent in my bank account if he would have made that bet for me. I thought someone was going to take him in the first 5 picks, whether that was the Browns, the Raiders, Steelers trading back up, something, right? But we're sitting here, Perry, going into day 3. 5 quarterbacks have been selected, including Tyler Shuck and Dylan Gabriel.
And when I saw Tyler get just from Louisville, I know he was the comeback player of the year. When I heard the name, I didn't watch much Louisville football last year, I must admit, but I was just like, who the hell was that? When I heard the name come across, it was like, they picking everybody now aside from Shedeur.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because I get Ward, right? But Ward should have been the consensus number 1 quarterback prospect in this draft.
Yeah, he had the most passing touchdowns of any quarterback on the FBS level last year.
Yeah, I mean, Ward was that guy. I wasn't surprised about Dart just because, right, Perry, you follow the buzz, right? There was a lot of buzz behind Jackson Dart's name. And so I wasn't super surprised about that. Plus, we all kind of know the Giants' history on drafting quarterbacks and the whole, racial thing behind that with the Giants. And so that didn't surprise me. But then, man, when you start seeing Milroe come off the board and Dylan Gabriel come off the board and Shuck come off the board, it's like, okay, it's gonna be very, very hard to convince me that Tyler Shuck was a better NFL prospect than Shedeur Sanders, coming off of like 2 broken legs, and he's like 26. I think he's older than Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy. And so I get it. I understand what's happening in terms of like, it feels like the NFL is trying to send a message, not to Shedeur, but to Prime. And there's been a whole lot of rumors about off the field stuff with Shedeur in terms of skipping interviews and telling teams not to draft him because they didn't want to go certain places. And at the end of the day, I'm not a huge NFL guy, but we know the shield is bigger than any one individual player. And it feels like they are trying to teach him a lesson, to say the least.
Yeah, to me, it seems like that's what it's about. It's not about the talent, because I think Shedeur, and then I see a lot in terms of what they showing with Colorado, but you don't see much. They're not really showing much even from his Jackson State days.
I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what to tell you, Barry, with Shedeur. Like, it's to the point where even having discussions about it is tough because I could rationalize with you. Like, if me and you had a show on Friday morning, I could rationalize him not going in the first round. We could have a real discussion about it. But for to tell me that he's the sixth best quarterback in the draft class and he's about to go potentially round 4 or later, and it's to the point, Perry, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. I wouldn't be surprised if he went undrafted.
Really? That's a whole nother conversation today.
I mean, because we're getting to the point where, I mean, if I would have told you going into the draft period that we'd be sitting in the 4th round and he wouldn't be drafted, nobody would have believed me, right? I would have set social media ablaze with that prediction. At the end of the day, if you're going to teach him a lesson, right, if that's the point of this, why draft him at all?
That's the reality of what we're dealing with here. And, I also want to talk about Cam Ward because of his journey. Cam Ward started on the FCS level, and I'm going to tell you, when I first saw him, was it Incarnate Word? Mm-hmm. I saw him, and there was a group that I was in of some guys from Southern, and when I saw him, I said, man, look, I noticed him then, and I sent it to the group. I said, man, some type of way, we got to get this dude to Southern. And I started sharing around, and before you know it, his stock just went up. He blew up, and before you know it, he left, where he went to Washington State. Then he just kind of went on his journey. But when I noticed that kid at UIW, I saw something in him then. It was just, he stood out, and I was like, how did this kid end up there? But then you just saw his talent, and considering his journey, man, he's blossomed to be surprisingly what he is today, a first-round pick coming out of University of Miami. Now, I did feel some type of way with Cam Ward when it came to the bowl game, where his team needed him, and he played the minutes he said he was going to play. But at the end, I just felt like, as a competitor, you get out there and you win the game. I get it, the money on the line, I'm looking at the future, but it's something that's in me called pride, and I have a lot of it. I had to learn how to use it and how to fall back from it. But in a competitive nature that I have, I don't think my pride would have let me sit on that sideline and watch the team in that bowl game like Miami did go down the way that they did, knowing I could have got in there and did something about it. But nonetheless, Cam Ward has had an exceptional career considering starting from the FCS level. And I think with that, I don't hear enough of that story of how he's worked his way up to being the number 1 draft pick coming from FCS.
Yeah, but his story is so interesting, right? And to hit the bowl game topic real quick, so Perry, I don't know if you saw where Mario Cristobal came out and said it was actually his idea not to play Ward at all. And Ward asked to play the first half because Miami wanted to play the backup to see if they needed to go get a quarterback out of the transfer portal. So it was actually Miami's call on that. And I agree with you, though, because at first I was the same way. I was like, that's just a tough look. But Kristen Ball kind of bailed him out when he was like, we really didn't even want to play him at all. We really wanted to see what we had at the quarterback room. Ward was great, but we knew we had to replace him next year. So I kind of get it at that point, and it was just kind of like a meaningless bowl game. But it was not a great look. But in terms of his journey, man, like he came out of a high school in Texas that ran like the wing tees, so they weren't throwing the football. They were only throwing the ball like 8, 12 times a game. And so that's why he had no offers. And the only way he got the offer to Incarnate Word is he went to one of their high school camps and was just spinning it. And so he got the offer and comes in. I mean, Perry, he set the school record for touchdowns as a freshman throwing, I think he threw 24 in 6 games and during the COVID season and the spring season, and then came back the next year and threw for like 4,700 yards and like 40 something touchdowns. Like, he's the all-time leading passer for passing touchdowns and passing yards in Incarnate Word history, and he only played 2 years there. Then he goes to Washington State and sets all those records, and then goes to Miami, man, and he sets all the single season records for quarterback efficiency, passing yards, touchdowns. And for me, Cam Ward checked all the boxes, and I it's still crazy we're sitting here, man, where there were people who were actually debating whether Shedeur should go over Cam Ward, and Cam Ward just went number 1, and Shedeur Sanders still on the board in round 4. The fact that we even had that debate 2 weeks ago is crazy. To me, Barry, I really do think Cam Ward has the ability to develop into a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Like, that's what I see with him. And that's why I was so high on him. And I really do think he's going to be a superstar at this league. And the funny part about it is you get a lot of these number 1 picks who are former 5-stars. They don't really have a chip on their shoulder. Cam Ward has all of these accolades, and he's still got a massive chip on his shoulder because he was that 0-star recruit with no high school offers. And now he's going to lead a franchise where they just unretired Warren Moon's number 1 to let him wear it.
That's pretty amazing. Let me ask you, because when I look at Shedeur up against Cam, and this is the reality of the world, because we talk about, and let me ask you this, especially when it comes to the HBCU players being drafted. Normally when we see a guy from this realm, we typically see it from the O-line, right? The big boys up front. That's typically where we see it from. First of all, before I even get there, any FCS players have been drafted yet, period?
Yeah, 2. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, offensive lineman, went first round. He went 18th overall to the Seahawks. And then last night, William & Mary offensive lineman Charles Grant went 99th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders in round 3. So we have 2 true FCS draft picks. But then if you extend it to FCS transfers, you had Ward, Hunter, Zabel's a true FCS pick. Jaden Higgins went early 2nd round. Iowa State started his career at Eastern Kentucky. And then you've had Grant. So you have 5 FCS players if you include FCS transfers, but just 2 true FCS players.
So when we look at this conversation, and this is for my Southern people and my HBCU people out there that are listening, what do you think when it comes to the talent after talking to scouts and watching the evaluations? What more do they have to do on this level in order to catch the attention of those scouts in order to get their name drafted, in your opinion?
Dominate. There's no, the thing that frustrates me about the draft every year, man, is that a lot of people just kind of tuck their heads and ignore the facts. But at the end of the day, you have to have some sort of elite trait, right? Like, you look at Carson Vincent, Perry, how often do we see an offensive tackle in the SWAC play at 6'7", 315? And have the production and have the consistency as a 2-time All-American, 3-time All-SWAC, and just be dominant and go to the Senior Bowl and dominate. You look at Gray Zabel, same thing, man. He's a 3-time a 3-time All-Conference, 2-time All-American. Charles Grant, dominant. David Walker is going to be drafted today, was a 3-time Conference Defensive Player of the Year. And also on top of that, too, was a Buck Buchanan Award winner with a 60-something tackles for loss, 30 sacks. You got to have the production. You got to have the measurables. And then also, too, you got to have some sort of strength of competition. Like, all these schools scheduling the Lincoln Californias and all these D2 schools, you're the reason your players aren't getting drafted, because the scouts don't respect the film. And so you've got to show out in those FBS games. You've got to show out against top FCS competition. And at the end of the day, until some of these schools start scheduling better, taking strength and nutrition and training tables seriously, I mean, you aren't going to see the return on investment like some of these other top programs are. Like, there's a reason why a school like North Dakota State, Perry, has had 13 NFL draft picks since 2014. Central Arkansas is about to have their 6th or 7th NFL draft pick since 2014. You got to follow the trends, man, and it's strength of competition, it's development, measurables, and production. If you don't check all those boxes, then the NFL might not be for you.
how many players from, let's just say, the SWAC has been drafted over the past, let's go decade, 10 years maybe? Or,
I mean,
and
I
I
don't
can
even
break
know
it
off the
down
top of my
smaller
head.
to help you, maybe 5 years. Let's go from COVID to now.
It's not a lot. I'll say this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to try to find the number.
And the reason I'm asking, because we have the Legacy Bowl that is like that extra step to try to help push these guys to be seen, like you say, may not be seen. Is the Legacy Bowl truly helping the guys? I know it's helping them be seen, but is it truly helping to push them into the NFL, or is it just another showcase just to have?
So out of the HBCU Legacy Bowl, no one's been drafted, Harry, but there has been a lot of, oh God, what is it? Like, there's been a lot of like UDFA opportunities, if that makes sense. So there are an increased number of opportunities for these players, but until we see someone drafted, you could just say all it does is maybe help you get in front of the scouts and maybe get that UDFA contract and maybe be able to raise, the money for that. But I mean, the funny part is this. I mean, Perry, since 2014, the only HBCU that has over 4 NFL draft picks since 2014 is actually Tennessee State.
Yeah.
With 5.
What about South Carolina State? They should be like knocking at the door, huh?
Yeah, I think that. Well, you got to think since 2014, it'd be 2.
Yeah, I know Buddy Pugh was pumping out defensive players.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that I just think people don't realize how hard it is to get drafted, and also too, Perry. Let's just take this draft in general. So I just mentioned we have 2 true FCS guys, right? There's only been 7 picks from the G5. There's been over 100 total picks. So put that in perspective. Like Ohio State's had 8 players drafted alone. So at the end of the day, it's going to be hard to get to the NFL just in general, right?
Yeah.
I think we got to start being honest with these players, man, where we start looking at I guess the opportunities that are presented to them, and it's like, if you're not a top 257 player in the nation, Perry, and you fit a positional need for a team, your opportunities to get drafted are very, very small. And that's just a tough conversation for people to have.
It is, and it's the harsh reality of the world that we live in. Blue, hey, I got to get ready to go to a break. Blue, I'm at the top of the hour, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. Look, once we get rolling here, we could probably do a whole hour, 2 hours on this, man. But let everybody know where they can keep up with you and continue to follow this draft with you, because I know you've been putting out stuff, man.
Yeah, man, you can find us FCS Football Central on si.com/college/FCS, Zach McKinnell on all social media, and the Blue Bloods on all podcast streaming platforms and YouTube, man. Appreciate you having me again.
Man, appreciate you, Blue. And then, of course, you guys can catch Zach and I on Mondays on the On the Yard Network. We do it live at 10 a.m. We cover and recap SEC baseball from the week. So, man, if you're into that, you can be able to catch up and continue to hear he and I talk about it, man. Blue, thank you for coming on, man, this morning. Have a good day, man.
Yep.
All right, everybody, let's get ready to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue the conversation. Stay tuned. More of the Jaguar Journal.
Quarter, with Jackson State leading 10-3. Ball's at the 31-yard line. Again, throwing the football downfield. Oh, and his receiver Hayes makes the catch. See you later. Touchdown, Southern. And every time you think Southern struggles, they come back, they make a play. They've done it all year long. Kick is up. Kick is good. 2nd down and a yard to go. Again, they give it to Lewis. Lewis finds room. Lewis still on his feet. Lewis making a move to the outside. He's inside the 25, the 10, the 5. What a run by Ryan Lewis. 69-yard run for Ryan Lewis, and how about this? Kicks up, kicks good. Halftime, George Johnson along with Charles Mann. Southern trailed in this football game 10-7. Then they reel off 14 straight points, and they do it with the big plays.
And that's something that we didn't think would happen, at least from Southern's perspective. They've been able to methodically go down the field on people and win ball games, not the big plays. You saw the big play by Ryan Lewis running 69 yards, the nice throw by Terrence Levy. This is something that I don't think Jackson State thought they would see in Southern either, and they go into halftime down by 7 points.
Jackson State came in the best defense out of the SWAC. And if you take a look at the highlights, you will see that this club, and I'm talking about Southern, was really able to capitalize on a couple of miscues, and the big plays are the result of it.
And this is Daniel Guy with a nice stiff arm to Bradley Pittman there. And he runs that ball 36 yards inside for a touchdown, makes it 7-3. And then Terrence Levy, quarterbacking, throws a big bomb to Michael Hayes, who gets by Rashard Anderson and waltzes into the end zone for a 69-yard reception. And then the big run by Ryan Lewis, a scat back for Southern, races 69 yards for the score. And that's where it stands right now, 17-10. Southern is on top.
Passing leaders in the conference, Donald Hayes from Grambling, your top passer. Washington second, but he's intercepted right there. This time the inside handoff,
and the ball was dropped to Tommy Head.
Here's Taylor in the pocket, looking downfield and looking for Leroy Fields, and this one looks intercepted, and it is.
He's played a lot tougher ever since. And this is a free play for Southern.
2nd and 15.
It's a free play.
Levy completes his
pass.
It's
a free play.
Oh, and he's still up.
It's a free play.
Hayes is going to continue running inside the 10, the 5. Unbelievable Michael Hayes. Hayes now with 187 yards receiving. 169-yard touchdown, 181-yard touchdown.
And Southern's came up with all the big plays.
They lead by 14. And that one is intercepted by Darden. Darden looking for some room, and Guyan will finally drag him down. But we start the 4th right after this. 2nd down and 20 after the penalty.
He's got a man wide open.
Going into the corner. Touchdown! Reynolds attempting the point after. It's good. A 32-yard field goal. Kick is up. Kick is good.
This is a great football game.
We knew it would be, though. And Torrey Thigpen got us out of our seats.
And this is the punt return by Torrey Thigpen. We were just talking about we haven't seen him. He breaks 2 tackles and runs up the sideline. He has great blocking, but gets pushed out of bounds on about the 1-yard line.
And touchdown Jackson State.
The game is a game of momentum swings. Snap is good. The kick is up.
On driver. Yes, sir.
The ball up to the big receiver, Michael Hayes. There he goes.
Hayes makes the catch. Hayes still on his feet. Hayes looking for blocking. Hayes trying to find a hole. Hayes is still on his feet. He alley-oops. He's inside the 15 and drawn out of bounds at the 10-yard line. An I formation. Oh! Fumble Levy. He kicks it and falls on top of it.
Touchdown. Receiver that has not seen much action comes up big.
1st and 10. Washington over the middle, intercepted. On his own play of the game is Michael Hayes with 8 receptions, 266 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
And that was
the last one was unbelievable.
In the back of y'all, me and Doug about to go party with the rest of the people. All right, I see y'all.
And another interception. And there's Pete Richardson right there. Made the adjustments a couple of weeks ago against Grambling to beat Doug Williams' team. Makes the adjustments time in and time out. And because of it,
that's
his
it.
Jaguars are
All right, we're back. It's the Jaguar Journal. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you guys with us. We're getting things rocking and rolling. 8 o'clock, 8:02 a.m. to be exact here, Central Standard Time. Glad to have you guys, everybody listening on 107.3 across the Baton Rouge capital city area. Good to have you guys and everybody watching on our YouTube and Facebook. Also glad to have you guys as you please hit that subscribe button and then hit that like and follow button. And then you can keep up with us at the Jaguar Journal on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on X, and on Instagram. We'd love to have your continued support. Good morning to everybody that's in the chat. I see you guys going back and forth having conversation. The chat on our YouTube is always entertaining at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. in the morning to watch the back and forth, the conversation. But that's what I love to see, the conversation amongst everybody in there. All right, let's talk some SWAC baseball quickly this morning. And I'm going to start with Southern University. Southern's baseball program right now, 15-23 overall on the season. They're 7-11 in conference play. And it's been kind of tough. I was a little hard on them. Not a little hard. I was hard on them after last week going on the road to Pine Bluff and losing that series. All 3 games. They lost game 1 on that Thursday of 15-1. Or should I say the other set way around, 1-15. They lost game 2, 3-13. And they lost game 3, 4-5. It's tough. Really tough. They got Mississippi Valley this weekend. Valley, they got 2 games today. Got a game today with Valley and 2 games tomorrow on Sunday. So they're taking on Valley today, 3 o'clock. It's going to be first pitch here in Baton Rouge. 2 games tomorrow, Sunday at 1 o'clock and at 4:30. And then next week, for our Houston listeners, the Jaguars baseball team will be out in Houston at Texas Southern. And before you know it, we're going to be wrapping this thing up. They got a midweek game on May the 6th here in Baton Rouge against McNeese. And then they're going to go on the road to Huntsville, Alabama, May the 9th through the 11th to take on the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. And before they close out the regular season on the road up in Jackson, Mississippi, as the Jaguars will be taking on Jackson State May 15th through the 17th. And then we'll be getting ready for the 2025 SWAC baseball tournament. It's going to be May 21st through May 25th in Birmingham, Alabama at Rickwood Field. So the SWAC baseball tournament is returning back to Birmingham after a short stay over in Atlanta, which it looked like I thought it was going to grow, but ultimately it's going back to Birmingham. I miss the days of it being in New Orleans. All right. It was just easy access. You can get down there and come back. That's just my selfishness speaking, because I could get to New Orleans and back. I ain't easy to get to Birmingham and back. And I've never been much of a fan of Birmingham. I say that publicly. People say they're not fans of many cities. I'm not a fan of Birmingham myself, just period. But let's look at the SWAC standings, and let's start at the bottom. As you know, in the baseball side, we've gotten rid of divisions. It's just straight up from top to bottom. And let's start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. Alcorn State at the bottom. They're 1-17 in conference play. Their lone conference victory so far on the season was against Southern. They're 6-30 overall on the season. Alabama A&M 2-16 in conference play. They're 10-29 overall on the season. Prairie View A&M, the Panthers struggling, 4-11 in conference play. They're 8-32 on the season. How about Prairie View on a 15-game losing streak in baseball? Pretty tough. Mississippi Valley, 6-12 in conference play. They're 11-17 overall on the season. Southern sitting right there at 7-11 in conference play, 15-23 overall on the season. Jackson State right above Southern. They're 8-10, 20-17 overall. This is the team to watch. The next team I'm about to tell you, UAPB. If you have not seen them, they are lightning in the bottle right now. They have reeled out series after series after series. This is the team to watch. If you want to talk about a team that's heating up, that's on fire, that's hot, go check out UAPB. They were at the bottom of the SWAC standings in baseball just a few weeks ago. Absolutely at the bottom. They have since turned it around. They're 10-6 in conference play. They're 12-28 overall on the season, but they have gone in and gotten series after series against teams that they traditionally have struggled against. And they have seemed to gotten their stride at the right time. Pine Bluff is the team to watch, and I think Pine Bluff headed into the SWAC tournament. Keep your eyes open. If this thing does not fizzle out, if they can keep this going as the regular season ends, this is a team that you have to watch out for in the SWAC baseball tournament this year. No doubt about it. Florida A&M right above them, 13-6 in conference play. They're 19-20 overall. How about Florida A&M? They're riding a losing game streak as well. Right above Texas Southern, 13-6. They're 20-21 overall on the season. Pine Bluff got a series victory over Texas Southern. You got Grambling State, who's 14-5 in conference play. They're 19-19 overall on the season. Alabama State, 14-5 as well in conference play. They're 22-21 overall on the season. And then you have Bethune-Cookman, the Wildcats, the number one team in the conference, 16-3 in conference play. They're 25-18 overall. You know who beat Bethune-Cookman last night? The UAPB Golden Lions. I'm telling you, this team is tough. UAPB is a team to watch out for. Southern, it's going to have to work on some things. This does not seem like it's the year for Southern. Not at all. Considering what the product, the output, this is not Southern's year. And traditionally, this isn't a Southern baseball team that you've seen being a part of this rich tradition and history of a program of where they at right now. A lot of work still to be put into that program. A lot of work. Still a ways to go. I want to go back and let's look at Pine Bluff just for a minute. Right? And kind of lead you up into how they got to this point. They lost the series, and I'll just start back in March. They lost the 3-game series to Florida A&M. They lost 6-7, 12-13, 5-12. They were right there in the thick of things. They took on Eastern Illinois. They beat Eastern Illinois 9-6. Then they lost game 2, 6-22. They did what they needed to do against Alcorn, and this is where it looked like they started to wake up. They beat Alcorn 18-5, 12-9, and in game 3, they beat them 24-3. Now, they struggled with Alabama State. They lost all 3 games in that series, 8-9, 3-14, and then 4-14 in game 3. Then they played 2 games with Missouri, Coach Carrick Jackson up there. They lost to Missouri 10-25, 7-8. They had a series with Prairie View postponed before taking on Lamar down in Bowman, in which they lost 1-3. Now things start to heat up. They go down to Houston, Texas on April the 11th. They take on Texas Southern. They beat Texas Southern 4-0 in game 1, 11-8 in game 2, and 19-14 in game 3. They take on nationally ranked and at the time top 5, the University of Arkansas. They lose 3-13. Then Southern's next on the plate. Up in Pine Bluff at Torrey Hunter Baseball Complex, they beat Southern in game 1, 15-1. They beat Southern in game 2, 13-3. And they beat Southern in game 3, 5-4. Get the complete sweep. They fell short against Central Arkansas, the UCA Bears up in Conway on Tuesday. Big. 0-10. But then to come out last night against the number 1 team in the conference after getting sweeps at Texas Southern and against Southern, and to come out and beat Bethune-Cookman 6-5 in game 1 up in Pine Bluff. If you're in the Pine Bluff area, I recommend you go out there and watch this series this weekend. This is a UAPB team that's heating up and showing you they can beat anybody in this conference. And they're heating up at the right time. Although they lost those series to FAMU and Alabama State, it's what they're doing right now. And what they're doing right now cannot go unnoticed, and why I'm pointed out, because what they're doing is not easy to do in this conference with the struggles that a lot of teams are having. Southern's one of those teams having those struggles. Losing a series to them, giving up a win to Alcorn, whose only win on the season was against Southern. I hate they get to check that one little box next to us. Who's it? Mike, you laughing? Mike laughing at me about that one. But game 2, this is the series to watch this weekend. If you're not keeping up with anything in SWAC baseball, I recommend keep up with this series, this Pine Bluff and Bethune-Cookman series. I think this is something to pay attention to. Now, am I going to shoot the confetti off because UAPB won game 1? I'm not, but I am surprised that they was able to keep it going 6-5 in game 1 over the number 1 team in the conference. And this game is up in Pine Bluff. So, Pine Bluff people, get out there at the Torrey Hunter Baseball Complex and support your team today as they taking on Bethune-Cookman. Second, game 2, first pitch is going to be 2 p.m. today. And game 3 is going to be on Sunday at 1 p.m. Just a series to pay attention to. I'm liking what I'm seeing with this team heating up. And right now, from what they're doing, they got my attention. Southern, of course, at home this weekend taking on Mississippi Valley. You guys got some free time today? You want to go to a Southern baseball game? You want to go support the Jaguars? Today's the day to do it. It's been rough on them having to be on the road, but they have Mississippi Valley today, Lee Hines Stadium. 3 o'clock is going to be the first pitch today. You're going to have a doubleheader tomorrow at 1 o'clock and 4:30. So all my baseball fans out there that's in the Baton Rouge area, you want to get out and check out some Southern baseball, try to cheer them to victory over Mississippi Valley, whose Valley right now and Southern are almost neck and neck in the SWAC standings. That's how close this thing has gotten. When we're looking at the SWAC baseball standings right now, Valley is 6-12, Southern is 7-11. This series is going to be right there. They're 6-12, Southern is 7-11 in conference play. So they're about what and what. So this series is worth seeing between them to try to see who can pull ahead. We're getting closer and closer to this SWAC baseball tournament, ladies and gentlemen. Pine Bluff is the team to watch right now. Bethune-Cookman is the best team in the conference right now by overall record. And Southern is just trying to stay afloat right now on the baseball side. So I got to take a break right now. So let's do that. You guys stay tuned. I'll be back more to Jaguar Journal, all right?
Quincy Richard is the quarterback. And Don, this is a man who's really changed his game from last season, and he's a graduate student as well.
Yes, he has, Bob. Quincy Richard has matured into the unquestioned leader of this Southern University offensive attack. 10 wins this season, and he set school marks for passing yards and touchdown passes. And Bobby's had a lot of help, only 5 sacks on the season.
He earned his undergraduate degree back in August. He's taking some master's classes, and he wants to be a lawyer.
Here's Richard looking at the end zone. Has a man there. Touchdown, Southern University.
Play clock down to 3. Richard gets it off over the middle. Touchdown!
Holmes goes in motion and comes set on a 1st and 10. Richard completes it. That's Ard. Ard down the sideline. He could go. And finally pushed out of bounds. Richard's run for 10 touchdowns this season. He's going to keep it. Richard goes in. Make it 11 for Quincy Richard. Richard wide open. Touchdown, Chris Davis. Oh, does he love playing football even more now? That in the kickoff. Richard looking deep, and it's a touchdown.
But only 3 times did he go down. Twice he ran out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. It goes down as a sack.
2nd and 8. The deep ball, and that's our man Chris Davis for the touchdown. Time for today's State Farm Players of the Game. And from Southern University, the quarterback, number 15, Quincy Richard, 34 of 42, 552 yards, 5 touchdown passes.
Quincy, on behalf of State Farm Insurance Companies, I want to present you with a trophy for the most outstanding player today. Congratulations.
All right, we're back. More of the Jaguar Journal. Good morning, everybody. I am Perry White. Glad to have you guys with us. Everybody listening across the capital city area, Baton Rouge capital city area on 107.3 FM. Good morning to you. And everybody watching on our Facebook and on our YouTube, good to have you guys. Be sure to hit that subscribe button as well as like and follow. And everybody out there listening, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, X, Instagram, all of those things. Glad to have you guys with us. Very special guest here on the Jaguar Journal. He's been on here many times, but of course, now it's the time to get him on because we got a big game for the Southern fans coming up in August. It is the Meac SWAC Challenge. Nobody better to talk about it than the executive director of the Cricket Wireless Celebration Bowl and as well as the Meac SWAC Challenge, my man, John Grant. Good morning.
Good morning, Perry. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
You know what? We are wonderful, brother. Happy to be on with you this morning. You and your the Jaguar fans.
You up? You playing a little golf this morning?
No, it's a little rainy here in Atlanta and overcast. So, actually, I was down in Houston yesterday at Texas Southern at a symposium that with a lot of some of the leadership, athletic directors, and so forth from the SWAC, and with Dr. Cavill and his crew and his students down there. So it was a great symposium that he did on HBCU sports.
Let's jump right into it. Southern University, North Carolina Central, going to be in the Meac SWAC Challenge, man. This is going to be a big one over in Atlanta this year. You guys continue to get this thing. You say start in the A and end in the A. That has been the motto for the Meac and for the SWAC. That's what teams want. If you get a chance to play in that Meac SWAC Challenge, you want to end in the A in the Celebration Bowl, and you are running both these things. Let's talk about the Meac SWAC Challenge this year for 2025 with the selection of Southern and North Carolina Central in it.
Big matchup, Perry, as you well know. As a matter of fact, this was a matchup sought out by both institutions. I don't remember the last time that they played together, but Coach Oliver at North Carolina Central has some history down with Southern, and we know how much the Jaguar fans love Atlanta, just like the Eagles fans for North Carolina Central. People love Atlanta. So we were happy to put this one together, Perry. And one other important point, this marks the 20th anniversary this year of the kickoff game, the Meac SWAC Challenge kickoff. We're celebrating 20 years this year.
That is huge. And I remember, this game has been all over the place. It's been in Birmingham. I remember the days in Legion Field. I remember then you guys took it over to Orlando, wasn't it?
That is correct.
Had it in Orlando, and then we had a stint here where it hosted at 2 different schools. Bethune-Cookman and Alcorn played over in Daytona. I remember that game because the lightning delay, it kind of threw that game off. And then we had it here in Baton Rouge, Southern versus South Carolina State. And now it has found a home in Atlanta, man. This thing, it has traditionally continued to keep the support of the people that's around, but it has found homes in different states.
That's true. And we had it, like you said, it started in 2005 in Birmingham, was there for about 3 years, and it spent a number of years in Orlando before, go on campuses. But, we talked to ESPN about, that game it required having a home, having a stable site. And so we didn't think there would be a better place for it than Atlanta. And it was struggling initially. When we brought it here, that was a close game down in Baton Rouge with South Carolina State. Went down to the wire and a drop pass in the end zone, if you remember that.
My man Danny Johnson knocked the pass down and won it for Southern, no doubt about it.
Sure did. And so having it here just gives it, Atlanta's a great city for people to come to. It's the number one travel destination for African Americans in the country. It's a great, everybody has friends and family here. We all do. And so it's just been a great location to start the season. And we're excited that what's really important about this game, Perry, is, it's in prime time. We're 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, Eastern time, Saturday, here in Atlanta on ABC to open, the college football season. And it is the second most watched game in week 0 on that day for the last 2 years.
Let me ask you this. Celebrating 20 years, somebody had to sit down and have this thought and say, man, this could be something great one day. How did this thing just blossom from an idea to a reality?
Well, the game itself, to tell a little bit, elaborate a little bit history on that. Back in 2005, when it was launched, Commissioner then of the Meac, Dennis Thomas, and Commissioner Viles, who was the commissioner of SWAC at the time, came together with ESPN to put together a game that would give both of the conferences a bowl-like experience, but it would be at the beginning of the season. And so the game used to be like a 3 or 4 day series of activities, just like a bowl week. And it would be the champions from the previous year that would participate. It evolved over the years, Perry, and it didn't. The champions no longer participated in it, and then the Celebration Bowl was launched in 2015, which really kind of evolved the game. And it, in all honesty, ESPN was paying a little bit less attention to it because of the attention to the national championship with the Celebration Bowl. So there was some conversations. Do we continue it? Do we not? Because its purpose was about the bowl experience, and now you had a bowl game. And in that conversation, no, we need to continue. Let's put it in Atlanta, and we'll hook it to the bowl game. Meaning, you start in the A and you end in the A in Atlanta. And so that's what really gave it some impetus. And then moving to week 0, because if you recall, it was on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. In 2021, we moved it to the first week, which is week 0, the last week of August. And that's when it really took off and began to thrive.
For my Southern fans out there, Southern is undefeated in the Meac SWAC Challenge.
They are.
Beating FAMU, beating Delaware State, beating South Carolina State. Now, we got North Carolina Central circled and targeted. And, of course, Trey Oliver, former defensive coordinator here at Southern University. So we know Coach Oliver, but we also know how tough the North Carolina Central Eagles are. They're no slouch of a team. Trey Oliver always has his teams prepared. I look back at the history. These two teams last met in 2006 here in Baton Rouge, and Southern lost that game 27-20 to North Carolina Central. So we got to redeem ourselves. I know 2006 was a long time ago, and, I'm still thinking the 90s was 10 years ago, Mr. Grant, but it ain't. So 2006 was a long time ago. Mike, what year you was born? Mike was born in 2002, so yeah, and Mike grown now. So
he said he was 4 years old when that happened. So we think that this, not recognizing at the time when we put the matchup together the significance that it would actually hold, and so the fact that this game is taking place this year with that kind of rivalry, as you mentioned, and the history around these two prestigious institutions and their program. And I've got to add to this. That, this will be the Human Jukebox first big public performance since the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Are you excited to see the Human Jukebox? I hear you. It sounds like you're a little excited.
Man, look, not only me, but I think all I'm going to say all of America is going to be excited because, with this nationally televised game, they're going to get an opportunity to come back, and just like they closed out the NFL with the Super Bowl, they're going to get to open college football with the Meac SWAC Challenge this year.
Let me ask you this, because you said something and it just posed a question in my head. You said the Meac SWAC Challenge, of course, why it was started, to give that bowl-like feeling that starts the season off. Does this pay out like a bowl for these teams that participated in the beginning of the year?
There is a good payout. It's not to the level of a bowl game because, you earn your way to the seat to get to Atlanta. The Meac SWAC is an invitation because we're now booked up through 2028. So we put this game together probably back in 2018 or 19. This matchup for this year, and so yes, it's different in that regard.
What are you looking for aside from the fans in the stands? Because I know the network side of this is big, and that's where you have a lot of the conversations. We talked about that before. Hey, it's about the eyeballs. Talk about that when you look at this game and trying to get people to tune in, because you guys have had College Game Day there in the past with Lee Corso and the guys making, the game picks and so much. So you try to generate the interest to it, but for you, the eyeballs of the fans that are watching across the nation, how important that is. And what are you guys looking in terms of a goal this year out of that?
Well, it's a very good question. And let me tell you how proud we are. And I want to say we, not just at ESPN, how proud we are in the HBCU community to have a game that's positioned to open all of college football. For the last 2 years, the Meac SWAC Challenge has been the second most watched game in week 0. We were second to Notre Dame and Air Force back in 2023. We were second most watched to Georgia Tech and Florida State. Then the difference is both of those games in week 0, they preceded us in time, but they were also played internationally. They were played in Ireland. So the Meac SWAC Challenge, being the second most watched game, made it the most watched college football game on American soil. Think about that, Perry. That our conferences, our institutions, our HBCUs was the most watched college game played in America in week 0.
Big time. And when you look
That's
at this,
huge.
you guys have events. What are the events? Because the game itself is big, but what are the events leading up to this to give fans and everybody coming into Atlanta things to do?
Well, another very good question. This game being a little different from what we do with the national championship and the bowl game, we really work very closely and partner with the alumni associations of both schools. So what we focus on here is making sure that we're opening the season with a kickoff game that has a lot of energy, a lot of storylines that we can tell, et cetera, and so forth. So as far as the public-facing events, all of those are really alumni association generated. And so we know that, for instance, we had a meeting and we're having continual meetings with the Southern University Alumni Association. They're planning some really big things that are going to be up on our website within the next 1 to 2 weeks. The same thing with North Carolina Central. They're going to be doing that. And then, of course, our pregame fan experience that we have at the stadium is really, really big. And, we'll have 20,000 people at that event for starting from 3 until, kickoff at 7. Gates open at 6:30, but we kick off at 7:30. But so we have a lot of people that gather there. And then not only that, after the game, they come back out and continue the festivities until about 1 in the morning.
I mean, it is Atlanta. It is known for its nightlife. You know what I'm saying? Look.
Yeah.
Let's look over it, because not only we talk about this, I also want to talk about the Celebration Bowl, because they both work hand in hand when we talk about start in the A, end in the A. How did things end up for you guys out of last year's Celebration Bowl between Jackson State and South Carolina State? What was the numbers looking like? And when you got a chance to step away from it and say, all right, successful event, what did successful event look like for you?
So let me frame it in the context of all of bowls. So there are 43 total bowl games. If you take out the New Year's Six, which are a part of the college football playoff, if you take out the New Year's Six and the championship, that's 7 games. Those games are going to be bigger than anyone anyway, than any of the others. That leaves you with 36 actual bowl games, of which we're one of the 36. When you look at attendance from last year's game, we were number 8 out of 36. When you look at viewership, total audience, we were number 13 out of 36. So that's highly successful for us when you got bowl games that's been established for many years, and we're only 8. I mean, we're the infant in the room when you look at that. But then also, Perry, when you look at the fact we're the only FCS or football championship subdivision bowl that's a part of the bowl season association. That is really, really significant and successful, for our event. So great kudos to all the fans that were there and all the people who watched. We had 2.6 million people at peak, averaged out at 2.3 million, during the in viewership for that game.
And I also want to add to this for you to answer this, for people to not understand how big of a marketing tool has this become for those schools who do participate when you talk about applications to help towards enrollment for these schools being on these platforms and being able to put themselves out there nationally to be seen in front of millions of people?
That's a very, very good question, and it is tremendous. I was sharing just yesterday when we were speaking that in terms of media value, last year each school from their marks and everything being seen on television and the mentions and all of that during the game received over $6 million worth of media value just from the game alone, just the school. Each, let me say that each. So Jackson State and South Carolina State each got $6 million worth of media value from their marks, from their mentions, and the images, in the telecast, and that's huge. And if you so that alone gives the opportunity to put them in front of millions of people, to have their brands out there. And so we definitely see every year participating schools, as A.D. Robinson shared with me at Jackson, and the AD at Central shared with me as well, that they both have seen their institutions have seen significant spikes in applications for their institution, which is great. As a matter of fact, Central has a housing issue just like Jackson does. They've got more young students interested than they can accommodate, at this time.
Let me ask because you had an opportunity in this game to have Coach Deion Sanders and Shedeur, whose names all over the place. How big was that for the Celebration Bowl when you guys were able to capture that moment and have that type of marketing pub along with it?
It was an excellent, what I call a little boost for us. It was the first time when they came in 2022 that the game completely sold out for us at 50,000 for the bowl game. But what we have seen, though, our viewership in terms of television remained pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. And so this past year was a really good year for us. We were down a little bit the year before because we were up against 2 NFL games. Because now the NFL plays, they put games on that Saturday where we were previously before we had to move with the playoff expansion. So we moved up a week earlier last year, and so our numbers were down a little bit in 2023, but they bounced back in 2024 and were consistent with what we saw in 2022 and 21 when Coach Prime was at Jackson State.
Listen, let me tell you, Southern fans fiending for a Celebration Bowl, Bert. We cannot wait till the day you present us with that ticket, that invitation, saying, hey, we can take the Meac SWAC challenge, okay? But we want that invitation when you come down and hand it to us and say, hey, you headed to the Celebration Bowl. I sat back and I had to watch Jackson State accepted last year in Jackson, Mississippi. I was sitting back. I watched plenty of teams. I saw you give it to Alcorn State 2 years. I didn't watch us give it away. You give it away to somebody else other than us. Minnie, don't laugh at me, Mr. Grant.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. And the great thing, Perry, that we all can be proud of. I mean, that everybody, think about this, that we have something that each school, that at the beginning of the season, that each coach during media day has one goal in mind. and that's to get to Atlanta, to get to the Celebration Bowl. And so along the way now, we know that there's big rivalry games out there. We know that the Bayou Classics out there. We know that whatever that Southern participates in, but those games are on the way to a destination.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win those to get to where you really want to go. So in the past, those games ended up being, that's once you hit those and you win those, hey, a coach can lose every other game, but for Southern, but don't lose the Bayou Classic.
No.
Now you got to win that because you're trying to get to the next step.
And it's been Jackson State in our way. Let me ask you this. There have been rumblings, and we had a conversation here on the show of maybe the Meac not being so stable moving into the future. Have you guys began to evaluate what the future looks like if the case does happen where stability of the Meac begins to fall apart a little bit? Because, of course, we've seen Bethune-Cookman and FAMU come to the SWAC. We've seen Hampton and North Carolina A&T move on. And then there are rumblings that other teams in the Meac may be looking at other opportunities. What then does the future look like if there's a plan B, and is a plan B kind of being put into place to ensure that the future of the Meac SWAC Challenge, in which it bears the two conferences' name, and the Celebration Bowl, in which the two conference championships play in, to ensure that the future will survive with this wonderful opportunity for viewers, millions of people to watch across the nation?
That's a very good question, Perry, and we have one plan, and that's Plan A. And it's also our plan to make sure that we have two stable Division I HBCU conferences. I mean, we obviously, the conference manages its own internal affairs, but we're in constant communication with the conference members, and we hear, just like they do, the rumblings out there of someone's thinking of leaving, someone's looking to go there, and I can tell you that communication that we're receiving is none of it is true.
Okay.
None of it is true, and that's directly from the institutions themselves. How this comes out, we have no idea, and that's what they say, but there is no truth at all to any of those institutions looking to lead the conference. Okay. And I will tell you, when you look at, and I just read this yesterday, when you think about North Carolina A&T and Hampton going to the CAA, well, the CAA just announced, it was just announced yesterday, they didn't announce it, that William and Mary football program is leaving the CAA, going to the Patriot League.
Mm.
So that follows, 3 or 4 universities in the last 3 years or so that are leaving the CAA, including Richmond and Delaware. Now you got William and Mary, and there's one other, I believe. Oh, before them it was James Madison. So, what we are committed to doing, we're committed to assuring that we are putting the best value proposition forward for the conferences and for the conference members. And there is no other stage bigger. Let me see this, because I want your fans to hear this. There's no stage of any kind larger than the Meac SWAC Challenge and Celebration Bowl for HBCUs. And when I say that, I'm talking about total live audience. And that's what matters today in college football, and especially media-driven college football. How many people are watching? Mm-hmm. How many people are there is cosmetic. There's value to it, but from the TV side, it's more cosmetic. And so putting a great matchup on the field, creating something that fans are interested in coming to and being a part of, but also making sure that you're putting something out there that people want to watch. Because as I mentioned to you before, last year we had 1.4 million people that watched the Meac SWAC Challenge. There isn't a stadium in the world that can hold 1.4 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere. So you've got to focus on how you get the most expansive audience, and that's what we're doing, and that's the value that we're bringing to the SWAC and to the Meac.
Hey, A&T gonna learn the grass ain't greener on the other side.
Tell me. And look, that's my alma mater.
Hey, I'm just keeping it real about the Aggies. The grass was not green on the other side.
I concur. And I'm one that says this: if you want to build something that has value for you, and these two games, along with the games that the institutions have built over the years, our classic games, bring value direct to the institution, and so that's the critical piece for us in all of this. And then playing the long game, and building something that can last far beyond you and me, Perry, and everybody else. We're looking 50 years down the road, 100 years down the road. So when we talk to our team, and we want to make sure fans understand what is it that we're building that can be a great institution for your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, that they can have something like this to enjoy, and not understanding what the scale of it may be at that point. We're hoping that it's the marquee property, not just in HBCU football, but in all of college football. And so that's what the goal is. So coming to Atlanta on August the 23rd this year with Southern and North Carolina Central is a piece to that puzzle. There should be no one in Baton Rouge other than the police. And they're there to guard the campus. Everybody should be on the road to Atlanta. And if they can't come, those should be watching it. If you can't come, turn it on and make sure you are supporting Southern University in that manner.
We are the Jaguar Nation. We do like to show up deep, especially in Atlanta. And then, for people out there, the different alumni chapters around the country, they get together, they do watch parties. And so, they gather in large numbers and they watching. We love our football here at Southern University. Of course, I cover everybody around the SWAC and the Meac as well, but particularly since it's the Jaguar Journal, the listening ears are the people that's right here in the Baton Rouge area in Louisiana and Southern fans, man. We love our football. That's why I was speaking so passionately about sitting back and watching you present that invitation to everybody but us. And I want that invitation from you. Let me ask you this before I get ready to let you go. How do we ensure, because we know what this was before the Celebration Bowl, Southern fans know what we love. We love the Heritage Bowl, right? That was Southern's game. What happened with the Heritage Bowl where it kind of lost itself along the way and what we thought it was going to be successful? Because I do know the Meac was like having issues with not wanting to send its best team to the Heritage Bowl, wanted to send their team to at the time, the D1 AA playoffs. And so it kind of had its ups and downs, but what ultimately happened, and how can we ensure the Celebration Bowl does not meet that same fate as the Heritage Bowl?
There were a series of factors that impacted the Heritage Bowl. The first one that you indicated was, and Southern had a lot of success in the Heritage Bowl. Let me say that. So
we live in the past. Pete Richardson, Heritage, we love it.
but with that, and I'll get back to, we want today's Southern fans to write a new chapter in history, and you're doing that. And so that you got a great coach there, a great program that he's building. Excited for it. You've been close. You just want to get over that last hump. Jackson's been in the way for a couple of years, but I think that ultimately, with the program that's being built, that'll happen, and the support the fans are giving, and that's the most important thing. Support your program. You got to support your program. Support it with your presence, and support it with your finances. That's what builds championships. But to answer your question about the Heritage Bowl, that was the first thing. It was supposed to be the champions, but you're right. The Meac was sending their champions to the playoff. Number two, after that, the thing that hurt them was getting a title sponsor. I mean, it was difficult for them to get the sponsorship needed to secure it, and then they lost the TV deal, because of that also. And then when you have you put those elements together, fan support dwindled, and significantly. And so those are probably the underpinnings of why it ultimately folded. Then you had teams not necessarily wanting to come after that, and now you're going down to not only second but bringing in third level teams. Well, the thing that differentiates that from the Celebration Bowl is because both conferences have committed to forego their qualifier and send their champion. So we're guaranteed the champion, and which makes this a national championship game. So that invitation that you were referencing earlier, wanting to see that you want, that as we call it, the golden ticket, is it. You know, that's what every coach wants to get their hands on, because that is their invitation to Atlanta. They've earned it at that point, and that's the formal invitation for them to come. So the beautiful thing finally on this that we're making sure we're working on is that the Celebration Bowl is not only dependent on the two teams. This is our Super Bowl. It's our Super Bowl, the HBCU Super Bowl. So it's beautiful, as you know, Perry, when you've been, you walk around and you see, fans from all HBCUs wearing their paraphernalia.
Including me.
And
my team ain't even been in it, and I've been in there wearing Southern stuff, and you see plenty of it.
Absolutely, and that's what the essence of the Celebration Bowl is. It is a celebration of our success, of our coming together of HBCUs. You know, it is like an ultimate homecoming when people come together and they meet people from other universities. And I see that happen a lot. People who meet at the game, and I see them, in the hotel or wherever, and I see them talk, oh, how did you guys get? Oh, we just met today, and we're coming back together next year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this game is. This is what we have, and this is what we foster. So trying to get away from, well, if my team's not in it, I'm not going. We have to get into, as I tell people, if I walked up to anyone and said, hey, I got 2 tickets to the Super Bowl, are you going to ask me who's playing?
No, I'm going.
You going. And so that's what the Celebration Bowl can and will be. Hey, I've got 2 tickets Celebration Bowl. I don't care who's playing. I'm going.
How do fans get ready to get their tickets for anybody out there listening, no matter Southern fans, any fans, North Carolina Central, any of them, anybody who listens, who you just may have said, you know what, I heard John Grant this morning, I'm going to the Meac SWAC Challenge. Where do they go get their tickets? What's the information that they need to do to keep up with this thing?
Very good. And Perry, fans want to visit our website at meacswacchallenge.com. That's meacswacchallenge.com. Tickets, all information is available to you on that site. And make sure you go to that site, to the Meac SWAC Challenge home site. There are some other third-party sites out there that have the tickets prices higher, but make sure you visit the homepage for meacswacchallenge.com and for tickets and information.
Well, Mr. Grant, man, I appreciate you and everybody out there listening. That's the voice of John Grant. He's the executive director of the Meac SWAC Challenge, along with the Cricket Wireless Celebration Bowl, man. Thank you for coming on this morning, taking the time to inform the fans and the listeners out there on what this thing is, the past, the future, the present, and what we're looking like headed into 2025 as we're going to have Southern take on North Carolina Central. National television audience will be sitting there waiting, prime time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 Central Standard Time. Week 0 should be a huge matchup of 2 programs who have a tradition-rich football history. And the last time these 2 teams met up was in 2006 here in Baton Rouge, in which North Carolina Central won that game. So Southern should want to get back. And the beautiful thing about it, Southern fans, we're undefeated in this game, so that automatically, to me, in my mind, I'm psyched out. That give me a leg up in this one. But everybody, we got to go play the game and wait on the clock to hit 0. So thank you, John Grant, for coming on this morning, man. And it's always a pleasure to have a conversation and inform the people on what's going on.
Thank you, my friend. And you guys have a great day, and go Jaguar.
Go Jaguar. All right. I like that. Thank you. All right. All right, Mike, do we need to take a break, or do we need to end this thing right here? We take a break? All right, well, let's take a break, everybody, and I'll come back and get ready to close this thing out. So you guys stay tuned more to Jaguar Journal.
Quincy Richard is the quarterback. And Don, this is a man who's really changed his game from last season, and he's a graduate student as well.
Yes, he has, Bob. Quincy Richard has matured into the unquestioned leader of this Southern University offensive attack. 10 wins this season, and he set school marks for passing yards and touchdown passes. And Bobby's had a lot of help. Only 5 sacks on the season.
He earned his undergraduate degree back in August. He's taking some master's classes, and he wants to be a lawyer.
Here's Richard looking in the end zone. Has a man there. Touchdown, Southern University.
Play clock down to 3. Richard gets it off over the middle. Touchdown!
Holmes goes in motion and comes set on a 1st and 10. Richard completes it. That's Ard. Ard down the sideline. He could go. And finally pushed out of bounds. Richard's run for 10 touchdowns this season. He's going to keep it. Richard goes in. Make it 11 for Quincy Richard. Richard wide open. Touchdown, Chris Davis. Oh, does he love playing football even more now?
That in the flag against Grambling, holding on the kickoff.
Richard looking deep, and it's a touchdown.
But only 3 times did he go down. Twice he ran out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. It goes down as a sack.
2nd and 8. The deep ball, and that's our man, Chris Davis, for the touchdown. Time for today's State Farm Players of the Game. And from Southern University, the quarterback, number 15, Quincy Richard, 34 of 42, 552 yards, 5 touchdown passes.
Quincy, on behalf of State Farm Insurance Companies, I want to present you with a trophy for the most outstanding player today. Congratulations.
It's On the Yard Sports, and I'm Perry White, and what I need for you to do is go follow and subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter right now.
T.R. Ricks is a 5th-year senior who's getting his first chance to drive the train that Bob talked about. And right now, he's driving it quite well because the Southern Jaguars are kicking butt in the SWAC conference. As Bob mentioned, 6-0 overall in the SWAC, and T.R. Ricks has played so well. Over 2,000 yards passing. In the last 3 games running the football, he's been over 100 yards on the ground. The respect factor that he gets from his teammates is incredible. As a fifth-year senior who's never started, they elected him captain. And the numbers he has put up are represented on your screen. 27 total touchdowns on the offense, a pass percentage of nearly 60%. He could be the SWAC player of the...
All right, we're back. It's the Jaguar Journal. Good morning, everybody. I'm Perry White. Want to thank my man John Grant, the executive director of the Cricket Wireless Celebration Bowl and the Meac SWAC Challenge. Southern fans, get your tickets. The Jaguars are headed to Atlanta. Make sure you get your tickets. We had John Grant come on and talk about the game. Get your tickets. First game of the season, week 0, is going to be Southern versus North Carolina Central in Atlanta. Let's get the excitement. Baseball today at home against Mississippi Valley if you have nothing to do. Softball playing today. Listen, just a lot going on. And I want to thank my man Zach McKinnell, a.k.a. Blue. We got a chance to talk about the NFL draft and the HBCU players getting drafted, as well as have that conversation about what's happening with Shedeur Sanders in the draft. So I want to thank him for coming on. And listen, for all you guys out there, if you've seen, we've been pumping out content on our YouTube channel. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Jaguar Journal and go like and follow our Facebook page. And you can keep up with us aside from those 2 entities. You can go to X and Instagram, as well as keep up with us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Everybody out there listening across the Baton Rouge capital city area on 107.3 FM. Thank you guys for what you do each and every morning by simply cutting on your radio, turning it up, and listening for 2 hours as we bring you any information that we can out here. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. It's a lot going on. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, I'll see you next week at the same time in the same place, because it's the Jaguar Journal. Have a good weekend, everybody. What's going on, everybody? I am Perry White. I'm the host of the Jaguar Journal. I want to make sure that you guys tune in live each and every Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 107.3 FM. We also have our affiliates in Alexandria, Louisiana, as well as down in New Orleans. And if you're not able to catch us on radio live, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as follow us on Facebook. It's the Jaguar Journal.